out, isn't it? How is everyone? Awesome. We've got cheers, yes, we've kicked off well. So welcome to SydDT number 123. Oh, not that yet. So we are really lucky to have to kick off our 2026 sort of program. We've got Stokesy and Shari Elle. Everyone will know more about them very soon. And we're talking about the interesting topic of from conflict to co-creation. So what does non-violent communication look like? And how do we be authentic while we're doing it? That's what I'm looking forward to. I might learn a few things. So just want to acknowledge that we're on Gadigal country and paying our respects to elders past, present and future as well. Oh. So, a huge thanks to Atlassian for hosting this, because without our trusty collaborators and sponsors, we don't get to do this every month. So, tell us a little bit about Atlassian, because no one's ever heard of them. Sasha, please come and tell us about Atlassian.
Thank you. So, welcome to Atlassian, everyone. We're so happy to have you here, especially because for us it's so important to foster community and learning and sharing across the design industry. And so tonight is such a great example of that, and so that's why we're so happy to have you here. I also wanted to shout out our team of Atlassian volunteers who helped check you in and guide you through the room, so thank you to the volunteers, and to Sydney Design Thinking. Thank you. So yeah, and thank you for organizing this amazing event. All right.
Awesome. So huge thanks to Sasha and Frankie and Atlassian for hosting us and giving us food and bev and all that good stuff. And thank you to all for coming. And somewhere at the back, we have and Diana from Shapeshifters. So hopefully, while they're coming up, look to your left and you get a sneak peek of what's happening. But tell us all about you guys and Shapeshifters.
Hi everyone, great to be here. I'm Diana, this is Alan. We're from Shapeshifters. We help teams communicate more efficiently through visual storytelling and co-design. And one of our most valuable tools is visual thinking, because it brings ideas, intangible ideas, into a shared space. And one of the ways we do that is live scribing, which Alan will talk about that.
Yeah, so we've been collaborating with Sydney Design Thinking for almost 2 years now. It's pretty amazing. And each time, what we've been doing is we've been sponsoring a scribe, a live scribe. So basically, somebody's going to be live capturing the conversation through images and through words. And today we've got Mika here, awesome design student from Sydney University. And she's going to be live capturing this conversation. And this is something that we also do through our own meetup called Think Visual, which is next Wednesday early morning. So if anybody's really keen to get their sketch on early in the morning, please come along. It's a Wednesday, 180 George Street, starts at 8 a.m.
Thank you. So have you guys switched to the third Wednesday of the month now, or is next week a one-off? Are you working it out? So it's every month is a key important thing. And in the past couple of years, it's been the Wednesday before Sydney Design Thinking. So the second Wednesday of the month in the morning. I didn't say that very smoothly at all, but hopefully me stumbling over it helps you remember it. And I'm Ben. So part of the Sydney Design Thinking team, but also from Dynamic 4. We're a social enterprise in B Corp, and we specialise in leadership, design and innovation with a focus on purpose and well-being as a way we bring all that together into one integrated practice. If any of those little buzzwords sounds like something you're into, come and have a yarn. And so the group who lovingly brings to you every month is Kate, Lucas, and we don't have Kylie tonight, but hopefully she'll be back in action next month. Things that are coming up next month. Hopefully everyone knows it's International Women's Day on the 8th of March. Our meetup's not on the 8th of March, that's a very packed day anyway, but on the 12th of March will be our annual International Women's Day event. and we are focusing on building positive change in our workplaces and society. So we've got Catherine and them, and they're going to share a bunch of awesome stuff that they get up to. So come along for that one. And then in April, we've got Gordon talking about prototyping. So that's stuff coming up. Now we get to do the fun stuff now. So really lucky to have Stokesy and Shari kick us off, and they're going to tell us all about themselves and share their awesome stuff around from conflict to co-creation. And now I get to get out of the way. And for anyone that's new to SydDT, this is just the start of it. We go to the pub after this. That's where it continues. So see you at the pub. Stokesy and Shari.
And you hear me? Fantastic. So, thank you everyone for coming. This is a great turnout, and there's some familiar faces in the audience, which is always wonderful. So before we start, I just want to do a straw poll to make sure that we're all in the right room. So, can you put your hand up if you work with people different to yourselves and sometimes face alignment issues?
No one.
Okay, can you keep your hand up? I'm just going to ask you another question. Keep your hand up if you are in complete harmony and everything's working fine.
All the time.
Okay. I think there's somebody over there that's okay. That's a joke. Obviously, no one's going to be in complete harmony, but just checking we're in the right room. So that's great. So I'm going to sort of set the table as to what we're up to tonight. So some intros first. As Ben said, we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Sarah Stokes. I'm a I don't work here anymore. I'm a design leader and a coach, and this is Shari Elle, founder of NVC in Australia, and design leadership practice and communication expert.
Yeah, co-founder of NVC in Australia.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the co-out. And we're going to be bantering our way through this. So what we're going to do tonight, oh sorry, I've just gone. Uh-oh. This is great, isn't it? Oh.
Are you having alignment issues? With technology.
Okay, yeah, no, sorry, I've not used this before, and I can't tell which is forward and back. Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take you through a simple process to get from conflict to co-creation. But what inspired this talk was I attended a course with Shari last year about this time called Lead with Connection, and it was a course in NVC, and the reason I took it is working in a design, you're working with different people, in particular different crafts. You've got product, design and engineering. So product, thinking about business strategy and business value, design thinking about the creation and the customer experience, and engineering thinking about how we deliver it. Everyone's got different agendas and different goals, and somehow or another we've got to come together and create a beautiful thing for the most important stakeholder, the customer. And I just thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if when there's tension in the room, sometimes it's unhealthy tension, how might we get through that in a way that's constructive so that everyone's needs gets met? So when I was telling Shari about the work that I do, it seems like a crazy alignment where we should really talk to you all about what we've learned to see how you can bring those skills into your work.
And the other thing about that is that each of those different people with those different roles and different mindsets, each of those people, it's so important to be able to capture the strengths of what each of those people bring in order to create the best outcomes. And so how do we do that without someone taking over, rolling it out, rolling over each other, pushing through an agenda? That's why we thought, yeah, let's play here.
Yeah, and I think what differentiates this is we've probably all done courses on how to give and receive feedback or tackle difficult conversations, but this kind of goes beyond that, and that's what I was quite surprised about, is the level of self-awareness required is like you start with yourself when you're communicating. It's not you're wrong and I'm right. There's something else going on there, and there's a better way, and it's a great way to build trust. So with that said, we're going to get into it. Over to you.
So I want us to start by setting the scene, because the standard thing that people say to me as soon as I say I teach nonviolent communication, terrible name, I'd be a millionaire if it was named something else, but is, well, I'm not violent, I know someone else who is, who needs to do your course. But here's the thing, initially we actually lived in interconnected communities. So up to about 5,000 years ago, according to theologians, according to historians, we lived in communities that were co-created, that were living in interdependence with each other, with other communities, but also with animals and trees and the land and so on. There was a different receptivity that we had, and in fact some would say that that's how Homo sapiens actually survived and continued to thrive, where other species of humans didn't. So, but there was a shift that happened about 5,000 years ago, and it was about the time, and that shift started to shift what we were actually, the way that we saw the world. And it happened about the time of Mesopotamia, about the time of Egypt, where we started looking at, there were these early empires that started, and they actually went about conquering other lands, and they actually went about collecting resources, collecting slaves, and actually within, and started moving in a hierarchical thinking kind of way. And that kind of thinking was embedded into their social structures, and it's what's continued on now. But what I want to say to you is that that's not actually who we are as humans. It's just simply the predominant thinking patterns that we hold. So, but the thing is that most of us would say, oh look, I'm fine, I don't think in those ways. But what I want to let you know is that hierarchical and domination thinking that happened, and that we're still predominantly in, we still predominantly live in a world where you're responsible for me not being happy, where if only I find the love of my life, then I'll be happy. If I'm the boss, you need to do what I tell you to do. Whoever can choose whatever's right and wrong is based on who holds the power. That's still the predominant worldview that we're in most of the society that we're living in. So, and the thing is that this kind of thinking, it actually is embedded into our language patterns, because that's where the synapses all are. And so that kind of thinking is embedded in our language patterns, and those language patterns, so the way that we speak, we don't even see them, but they're embedded in there, and they actually create conflict and difference and separation. And not only that, because our language then re-affects our brains and the way that we think. Does this make sense? Right? So one affects the other, and it reinforces itself, and then you can't even see what we're doing. We can't even see that we're in that kind of separation.
And we'll be showing we'll be experiencing that later on.
Yeah. And so our intention here is to shift from this dominance to instead a focus around how do we enrich life together.
That's great.
So the thing about this hierarchical thinking, and we have it within most of the organisations we work in, is that someone is the leader, and then of course there has to be followers. There's some inherent problems with that. So one of the problems that we have, and of course we have to have roles and we have to have responsibilities, we have to know who is actually making the end decisions, whose job is it, because that clarity is important. But the thing is that this particular structure is a challenge, because what it means is if I'm doing what I'm told and you're the one telling me what to do, then fundamentally I'm disempowered, but I'm also waiting for you to tell me. I'm waiting for instruction. And the challenge with that is, if you have a look at the Gallup statistics in Australia and New Zealand, we're currently running at 23 to 24% engagement. That means we have 76 to 77% disengagement. And that is an effect of this structure.
Yeah. Ready for the next one?
Yes. So instead, if each of us stand in our own leadership, if each of us stand in our skill sets, what our gifts are, what we're here to bring, what we experience in our being, what matters to us, is what I'm trying to say, then we actually can all affect the whole. And if we stand in our following, and we don't speak up, and we don't say things, and we don't share when we see a problem that's coming, and we don't have a language to be able to do that, then what happens is that we are still affecting the whole, but not in a positive way. So it's really important that we've got the skills to be able to speak up and share what really matters to us, so that we can contribute in the fullest way possible.
And what I like about this, I don't like this by the way, I don't like that bit, but I like the other bit. What I'm trying to say is, as people at work, we have skills, we should stand in our power. So if I have design skills, I should be proud of those skills, I should be playing to my strengths, and sometimes we feel disempowered because there's this hierarchical nature. And it's not just at work, it's in other places too, but you know, being centered and standing in your power is an incredibly powerful thing.
And when we're talking about power, we're just talking about each of us have authentic power. Many of us are actually afraid of connecting to that authentic power that we have within us. That's not about a power over or a dominance, it's about just connecting to those skills and what we have to bring.
Yeah, so we're gonna be practical this evening. Now, not everyone may have a bit of pen and paper, but you all have your phones. So I'm going to be, I don't really like the idea of you looking down at your phones, but still it's a way to take notes. So we're going to introduce to you this 4-step process, and we're going to learn by doing. So, get my glasses on. So, first of all, I would like you to think about a specific instance or scenario that you're facing or you've experienced recently where alignment feels too hard. And this might be where you're just not agreeing, or it's about they want it tomorrow but I want it to be good, there's tension in the triad. It might be that I've got these goals, you've got those goals, or even we just don't know that we're heading in the same direction. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to think of something, if you wouldn't mind writing it down, because we're going to be using that statement to work on for yourself as an example, so you've had some practical experience and then can take it away. So
we'll just give you a few minutes to do that. Think of a situation where you were facing some situation where alignment felt too hard.
Could be as simple as your son not doing his homework.
Total misalignment. It could be that someone's voice is dominant in the space.
We should have got lift music, Shari.
Oh, yeah. You think so?
We should use that.
Yeah.
In my head, playing all the time. So I hope you've all got something written down, because otherwise you're not going to be able to play along. Me and Shari are going to do hilarious role play to illustrate some of these points.
No pressure.
You must laugh. Okay, so we're ready to move on. I'm just looking around. Looks like everyone's finished. Okie dokie.
So the first thing is, we just want to share with you that because of the way that we've inherited this language, we mash everything together, and we mash it together with a whole lot of judgments and all sorts of things that we're going to move into. And so this is just a simple, this is a taster tonight, right? So this isn't the learning of it, but this is the 4 steps that we can use so that we can get reconnected to ourselves when we're in these moments of challenge, and where we can come back into alignment with ourselves, and then we can choose whether or not we then want to share that with someone else.
Fantastic. Okay, on with the show.
So,
Shari is an engineering manager.
of course, and Sarah works for me. So Sarah, can you add that feature to the landing page? You know, that one we talked about?
I'm still not clear on the problem you're trying to solve.
Oh, look, you're overthinking it, Sarah. Like, you're really overthinking it, and I really can you just get on with it and just do it?
I don't know who it's for, and I don't know how it's going to help them. So that's just an illustration of a scenario that we've gone through many times. And I'm going off to the side now, and I'm saying, I'm being...
So what we're focusing here on is what actually happened.
So, I'm being ignored and disrespected in my role, and I'm a bit pissed off about it.
And I'm telling myself she is not a team player, and she's obstructive.
This is not a good situation.
So the first step is just to get really clear on what actually happened. So what am I noticing? Just the facts.
And you might notice that our situation didn't really stick to the facts.
A lot of judgment in it.
Yeah, just a bit.
So what we're doing when we think that we're making observations, and I just want to say, after 25 years of sharing this work, this is the part that people find the hardest, because they think they're making observations. Actually, they're absolutely certain they're making observations, but in fact what they're doing is they're making a whole lot of judgments, they're making a whole lot of assumptions, there's a whole lot of embedded shoulds and shouldn'ts and musts and can'ts and no choice and whatever in there, and there's just this subtle blame in what they're saying.
So when we think about observing, it's a bit like being a detective. And you were saying it's a bit like being a scientist. Scientists don't blame chemicals for reacting. Sorry. So observing is what happened. What am I reacting to? Not the chemicals, just the facts. We don't need to make it wrong, and we don't leave the emotions in there.
Yeah.
So here's an example of my judgment and then turning that into an observation. So my judgment with Shari and mine are role play. I'm being ignored and disrespected in my role. But if we actually look at that as an observation, the engineering manager asked me to add a feature, and I just don't understand why.
Yeah. And if we look at, so it absolutely takes the sting out of it. So in the second one, so my one, when I said she's not a team player and she's obstructive, If you just take that as an observation, then when I asked Sarah to include a feature, she said a product feature, she wants to know why. So it just takes the sting out of it.
It almost feels a bit bland when you just write it as an observation. It's like, yeah, so what?
So this, so this is yours.
That's me. So here's some more observing examples just to kind of whet your appetite. So if a judgment is no one cares about quality, in reality it might be that in the last 2 sprints the quality concerns were raised in the design review and weren't actioned.
And if you take a judgment like they don't care about what they're doing, they aren't even engaged in this, then I put that into an observations just to get really clear what am I talking about. And then it might be 3 times they've arrived at our meetings 20 minutes late and are texting in the meetings.
Final example, she's being dismissive. But I hear her say, you don't need to worry about that. So what we'd like you to do now is check to see what you've written and which parts of those are judgments, and review that and turn it into an observation. So I'll give you a couple of minutes if you can do that, please.
Just take your situation and write it into an observation.
Okay, it looks like people have finished. Just one point on the judgment side of things. They might make sense, but they do trigger defence. So nobody cares about quality. If you're saying that to somebody who was in that meeting, I do care, it's a judgment. And one of the things I was talking to Shari about the other day is, after a meeting where something, like for example in our example where I've been asked to do a feature that I don't know if it's a good idea or not, what happens, how do we do NVC and this kind of communication, because the temptation is to hang out with other designers after that meeting and go, you never guess what just happened, and have a good rant, and a good judgy rant at that. So I asked what would we do to avoid a pile-on.
Yeah. And remember what we're trying to do here is it is just this moment, work this situation out and get clear about it and what actually matters to us. But it's even more than that, because it's about how do we build relationships where we move forward with increasing trust rather than diminishment.
Okay, so on to the next step.
So the next bit is the feelings. And this is where we start to connect with ourselves. And you might go, oh, why do we want to connect with ourselves? Well, how can we be authentic if we're not self-connected? It's not possible. We're in our thinking of what they've done and whatever. That's not authenticity. Our thinking is not our authenticity. What is here in our body, what we care about, that is authenticity. What we've seen, what we would like, that's authenticity. So that's what we're doing in this next step. We're also bringing our vulnerability into that. We start to become undefended if we choose to.
And the good thing about it is it's just between you and you at this moment, so you can be vulnerable with yourself and think about what your feelings are in that situation you've just written down. So the wonderful thing about naming your feelings, it's actually a standalone technique that increases emotional intelligence. It, as you say, it builds self-awareness because it's how you're actually feeling. And there's some neuroscience in there as well.
Yeah, so the thing is, it moves us from our fight, flight and freeze, from our reactivity, from our getting angry and getting reactive. It moves us from our fight, flight, freeze to our prefrontal cortex. So as we start to get clear on, well, what am I feeling? What was the observation, but what am I feeling? We start to come back online. Whereas when we're in our reactivity, we're actually offline.
And we've got the lizard brain going on. It's not good.
We have. And of course, we're increasing emotional intelligence, and we all know that that's good.
So I'm going to name the feelings, Shari, about how I'm feeling about our situation. I'm feeling overridden and ignored! Exclamation mark.
Well, I am angry and let down.
So we're pretty, we're feeling a lot.
We are. Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about feelings. Uh-oh.
Actually, I'm wondering what you're feeling in your situation. And maybe just take a moment to reflect on that, what you're feeling in your oh.
Do you want me to write, do you want me
Yes, I
to?
think
Okay.
we've got a little bug.
Oh, did we go? Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, yeah.
So just have a look at what you would write as your feelings. And I just want to share with you something about feelings. Because remember I said before that we're so in this right, wrong, good, bad, that, this is our predominant thinking. This is the ocean we're swimming in. We just don't see it. Because we're so in that, we actually, even our feelings, which as I said, the feelings are in our body, that's what helps us to connect with ourselves, that even our feeling words have been taken over by a whole lot of other words which we call, in NVC, faux feelings or fake feelings.
So, we didn't give you time to write the feelings
No,
down.
we didn't,
So,
no.
did you want to just write your feelings down? Like, in that situation, you might feel angry and overridden or let down. Okay, we'll move on to the list of feelings.
So, you'll notice that there are some feelings here on the left, and these are what we would call in NVC, or authentic communication. These are actual feelings that we feel in our body. And it only takes, and I can feel them in my body. But there's a whole heap of faux feelings that we have been programmed with. I say programmed, but it's just the conditioning that we're in because we are in this hierarchical thinking that, as I said, that we don't even see. And what I want to name is 25 years of running NVC trainings. I have had so many counsellors, psychologists, social workers, HR people, a whole lot of people who come through and they are shocked that these on the right are fake feelings, that they're actually not authentic feelings. And even if you have a look at the great big beautiful, and they're a wonderful resource, I mean that genuinely, the feeling wheels, they're full of faux feelings, fake feelings. Now let me tell you why they're fake feelings. Every single one of those feelings involves someone doing something to you. And this is how we're taught to self-connect. So you've ignored me, you've disrespected me, you've taken advantage of me, you've judged me, you've micromanaged me, you've misunderstood me. But I'm just going to say, I feel misunderstood. I feel micromanaged. I feel undermined. There is inherent blame that's in it that is going to be disconnecting. And in fact, when I work with organisations, one of the things that I say is, please put these feelings on the wall and encourage people to never use them, because they actually create conflict within the organisation. Because straight away there's going to be defence on the person who's hearing it. I didn't ignore you. I didn't micromanage you. But not only that, it goes back, it's even worse than that, because not only is it full of blame, but I'm left disempowered. Because what I've fundamentally said is, you are responsible for how I feel. And I can't change how I feel until you do something different. So I'm left...
Stop ignoring me.
So I'm left fundamentally disempowered until I start to connect with a more authentic feeling and experience within my body. And you'll notice all the ones on the left only refer to me. I can feel them on a desert island, on on an island that I've been stranded on where there's no one else. Whereas a faux feeling requires somebody else.
And I think when you think about anxiety and stress, you can feel that in your body. I don't know where you would feel judged. You know, it's not embodied.
No.
Okay, so we're going to go from our kind of more judgy faux feelings to the actual feelings, and it's kind of sad really. So I was overridden and ignored until I did this process, and now I feel frustrated and lost. I feel that's a bit sad, but it's taken the anger out of it.
Can you sense that there's a vulnerability that's in that? Even a self-vulnerability. There's a self-compassion when I start to come into what I'm actually feeling. And for me, you know, what was before angry and let down, now I feel exasperated. By the way, angry is a feeling. But, you know, as I get more close to what's going on, it's more like I'm exasperated and discouraged.
Shake my head.
Thanks for the empathy.
So we are on to step 3, which is needs. So needs are what matters for all of us. Not just what I need, but what Shari needs. And in your situation, not just what you need, but those people or person that is involved in it.
So needs are actually, so we've built up a bit of an awareness of the situation, of what the observations are, we've connected with our feelings, and now we're going to connect with what matters to us. Why am I experiencing these feelings? It's not because you did that thing. It's always because I have a precious, precious need. I've got a human need, and it's calling for attention. So needs are what unite us as humans. All humans experience the same needs. They're what makes life worthwhile. Like, it's not like, oh, I need support and you're not supporting me. Like, it's actually, I would love support. That's what would make life worthwhile, right? By focusing on the needs, there's a natural human connection because we all share the same needs. And so it's so relatable. And at the heart of every conflict lies a really important human need in what matters to us. So every single time that we have conflict, it's because there's a precious need, at least one. So we can focus on the conflict or we can focus on the precious needs within it.
One of the things that I think is relevant to the context of the world of design, etc., is the level of the conflict. All conflict lies at the level of how, and so we often have heated debates about how we're going to do a certain thing. Like, this is the design process. Oh, well, you know, not really. This is the process you need to fit into. So I think that is a case in point right there.
So in that case where we get focused on the how are we going to do it, to come back to what is it that we really care about here, and then let's see if we can find a way forward together. And these are some examples of needs.
And the needs there are chosen because they're quite worky, but there's things like joy and shelter and food. So there's a whole gamut. Is a holiday a need?
I think it might be a strategy.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So in your case, go ahead and write what you might be needing. And here's the thing, we sometimes when we really connect with the core needs, it's like something within us just comes into stillness.
We're going to give you an example as well.
Oh yeah.
So here's what I'm needing. So based on where we've got to so far, I'm needing support from you, Shari, and understanding. I just don't understand what we're wanting to achieve in the project.
Yeah, and for me, I'm actually also needing support. Support in getting this project over, through and happening for our client, and also ease, because my workload is over full.
And yeah, there's something in that feeling about connecting at the needs level.
It's our common human language.
So yeah, if you've had a chance to write down what you think your needs might be, we've got that list up there. I'm going to carry on. So step 4 is making a request. Now, in the world of product design and engineering, we might say, how might we? So that how might we question is something that opens up the floor to creative ideas. It's a divergent question. And so making a request is the name of the step. For us, it's how might we? So how might we meet the needs of the group involved in our scenario?
So we want to be able to put, it's not just a feel good. We actually want to put, now that we're clear on what our needs are, we actually want to put it into action. And so actions are powerful when there's a genuine willingness and not coercion. And by the way, when we're working from a power over paradigm or a domination paradigm, we're constantly using coercion. That takes so much energy. It's also really powerful, actions or requests or how might we is powerful when it's specific, exactly what is it you want. It's also got a close time frame. It's not, somewhere, whenever, what if, It's they're actions that will actually contribute to the need, and it's what you do want, not what you don't want. Could we meet tomorrow morning? Blah, blah, blah.
An example of what I don't want is I don't want you to keep giving me features without context. But that doesn't really get us to the point of solving that issue. So some examples of making a request that are kind of tailored for this audience. Would you be willing to prototype this before deciding what we do next? Would you be willing to share what quality means for you in this release? How might we share what gets in the way of arriving at the agreed time? And can you tell me what you heard you say? Tell me what you heard me say. Sure. So this is another role play. So this is us bringing it all together. And so we've done the 4 steps, and so we're just going to act this one out. But I think the point here is this is a reflective practice that we're experiencing now, but we don't have to say everything in this to the person. It's for us to reflect on and choose how we communicate. It could actually be quite a simple sentence, but for the sake of today, we're going to go through things in a certain way. So, Shari, you asked me to add a feature in, and I just don't understand why.
Observation.
I'm not going to talk about feelings. I'm choosing not to talk about feelings because I don't feel safe with this person in this role play. I'm needing support. I just need to understand what's happening in the project.
Needs.
Shari, would you be willing to meet with me for 30 minutes tomorrow so we can unpack that feature and how it's going to be used so that I can understand what we're trying to achieve collectively?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, sure. That was the request.
So there you go. That's how it all comes together in a thing.
So there's no guarantee, even if you did say it, there's no guarantee that the person's going to say yes. But if they say no, it's because they have another precious need. Right? So we're always saying yes to needs.
So now it's over to you. So what we're going to do is pair up. Well, actually, first of all, you're going to write your request.
Just take a moment and write the request. What request would you make in your situation that will take you in the direction of the need? Would enhance the need if they said yes. Go ahead and write that.
Okay, so hopefully everyone's had a chance to write down their request. What we're going to do now is share with the person next to you. What did you learn? Like maybe talk through the 4 stages and just talk about what you learned tonight.
What was meaningful for you or what stood out for you in what we covered tonight? Just for 2 minutes. Turn to your partner.
That's one way to bring everyone's attention up. I also do the Cookie Monster impression, but that's not the time for that here. So what we're keen to hear from you all is if you're prepared to share maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people to talk about your experience and your conversation a little bit, because we're keen to know what's landed. So does anyone want to do that? Hands up, anyone? I'm trying not to look at people I know. Oh, Karina, thank you.
I found the feelings part really hard because I did make it all about me, which is what I'm realizing. And to name the feeling that I'm actually feeling is really difficult. So that's my reflection on this whole thing is, yeah, it was a judgment feeling. It was like, you make me feel, basically, not I feel.
I just want to know, that's actually how we're trained. Right? We're actually trained to not even know what we feel, to have no self-connection to that. So I just want to acknowledge just how powerful what you just said is. Just to acknowledge that.
I still can't name it. That's my reflection.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Hi everyone. I was just telling Frank and Lucy next to me, I'm Maria, everyone, hello, that very similar, I think, for the 3 of us, we were talking about what made the most impact was the faux feelings and not realising that it actually exists. Because initially I was like, you're saying that they're faux feelings, what do you mean they're faux feelings? Like they're not real. Like, anyway, so when you framed it as it's inherently blaming someone else, and projecting onto someone else, that totally made sense. Another observation that I had was, as I was sort of going through activity, was that in step 3, when we talk about the needs and the precious needs, that I realised that it's tied very strongly to the observations that I made. So the needs that I had, for example, the number 1 need that I had was impact, and the observation was that I wasn't being impactful.
Yeah.
basically, to sum it up. So it made sense to me, sort of like a full circle moment, that the precious needs is what I'm most maybe like insecure about, and I would project onto all my interactions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. The other thing I just want to acknowledge is, like, what we often do is, and this isn't a training, so, but what we often do is we often name the the need, I should say, to have impact, right? And then we judge it by saying, oh, and I tell myself that I don't have impact, right? So then we end up in a self-judgmental loop, and then we end up in anxiety and all the rest of it, right? Whereas when we're really clear, and I really hear your heart, that it's so important to you to have impact. Yeah?
Yeah.
It matters to you to have impact. And so then getting clear, what am I actually seeing that tells me that I'm not having impact? And also, where are my blind spots in what I'm not seeing? Because there are places I am having impact too. But I just want to acknowledge what a precious need it is and how we even judge our own needs. And that's another way we destabilize ourselves and end up with low self-worth and anxiety and so on. It's a terrible loop.
Yeah, totally. So that was really insightful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
What if you get shut down and someone says, I don't have time to speak to you about that, you're my direct report, or you don't have a chance to reply to them at all, like in that situation?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that there might be precious needs that you've got that are here for you, but that doesn't mean that someone else is responsible for meeting them. So one of the things, and again, it's not a training, but one of the things that we get really clear about is before I make the request, I want to be clear, am I actually okay to hear no? Right? Because sometimes they'll be able to say yes to our request and sometimes no, but my okayness isn't dependent on them saying yes. So there might be another way that I can get that need for support met, or clarity, or whatever, maybe, I don't know what that might be.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing is being prepared for a no, and then thinking about a need-centric about how you could achieve that.
But if I approach that person from a place of they've done something wrong, they're whatever the judgments were that we said about the boss, anyway, they don't care about me, whatever. If we approach it from that place, energy trumps words, right? So if I'm carrying that energy when I come into that conversation, that is loud, right? And it's not about tone, and it's not about body language, and it's actually that energy that I carry of judgment is loud. And so if I come in from that place, it's way more likely to hear no than if I come in really self-connected. Now I'm in my body, now I'm aligned, and now I can powerfully move forward and make that request. They might say yes, they might say no, but I'm coming from a different place.
I'm just thinking about it with the role play that we did. So we're meeting for 30 minutes tomorrow. I have to be prepared to say no, but also I have to, stand in myself, be grounded to have that conversation, and be aware of my needs and be able to speak to them.
Yeah.
Okie doke. Last one, and then we'll move on.
Ooh, okay, lucky last.
No pressure.
So I kind of wanted to draw from an example, but I just want to get your opinion on. Some people are just extremely terrible at naming their feelings and what you do in that situation. Because I have been in a confrontation with someone where I was, I won't even say a confrontation, it was like a discussion. It's sort of like, okay, well, how do I deal with the situation with you, and what are your thoughts on that? They'll just say something really weird that I don't know what to do with. It's not really it's a thing I need to deal with. I just feel purple. And I'm like, I was like, I don't know how to unpack that with you, man.
But like, you know, when people can't name their feelings, or even if they're faux feelings, even if they're like angry feelings, like just literally can't do it, like, how would you handle that?
So, I'm not putting responsibility on them to name their feelings. I'm taking responsibility for myself and being connected within me as best I can. But the second thing is, when I am in that place, I have way more capacity to have grace for where you are. Like, I've got way more inner capacity, because I'm not being thrown around. I've got way more inner capacity to even just take a guess at what they might be feeling, even if they don't know, right? And that grace, I'm going to say grace, but that way that I come to them without judgment, without, you know, you don't even know your feelings, or you should know your feelings, or whatever. How I come to that has effect. That's probably the best thing that I've got. I could also take a guess if I want to. I'm wondering if you're feeling a bit frustrated now. I'm curious. Because sometimes people, because we've been so disconnected, hands up if you were regularly at school asked to check how you feel. We're walking around with one leg.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for that.
Just taking a guess can be helpful. Can be helpful for them to go, oh, well actually it's not that, it's more this. So it gives them an orientation within. This is a taster, so, but...
Alright, sorry.
Yeah.
I know it was a weird one, but I just wanted to see if there was anything.
No, I think it's a beautiful one, and I think it's common.
I think it's common. I'll give the microphone back to you, but like, you know, like this, like, oh, like it's like purple. Maybe I just need lunch. And I'm like, okay, sort of leave it. But I just wanted your opinion. Thank you.
So I think to your point, this is like a taster of something that goes very deep. And I think what you've indicated there is there's something very deep about self-awareness that you get to through practice. And so after I did the first weekend course with Shari, I did a further 6 months as well. So it does help with that literacy, emotional literacy. But I do feel like I'm learning all the time.
Me too, 25 years later.
Okay, so what's next? We're going to skip that one because we've already done it. And we're going to talk about the summary of what we've done today.
So just in summary, this is a structured framework to actually connect with our own aliveness and to support this quality of connection. And it supports us to move from moralistic judgment to instead just observe what's going on, and to move from power over to power with. To power with in a very concrete way. It helps us to move from agendas that are running to instead getting really clear about shared outcomes. And it supports us to move from coercion, where we're trying to get someone to do something, to instead a genuine willingness.
And there's nothing worse than trying to get someone to do something they don't want to do. I might be referring to my team. But just on that point, I know we've been speaking about the work situation here because this is design thinking, but this technique's really helped me understand my needs and my son's needs and be able to make requests. So yeah, it's amazing, and it doesn't have to look like you're doing the technique either. So just onto the thank you page. So thank you all so much for coming and taking part, and if you're keen to learn more, Shari's got a couple of those weekend courses, Leading with Connection, in Sydney in May and August. And my website's a bit out of date, so I'm coaching and I can be a thinking partner, but feel free to reach out. And indeed, we'll be here afterwards if you want to come and have a chat. The other thing is, if you think your organisation or team might benefit from some of these communication techniques, that's something else we can do.
Yeah, we work with organisations as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're happy to do more questions if people are wanting to do that. If you're wanting to move, that's okay too.
If there's anything burning question-wise, please feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Oh,
We have got a few questions.
Where do you want to start?
At the front here.
The gentleman in the white hoodie.
Hi, my name's Stefan. I have a question. Not that I'm really experiencing this in the workplace, thankfully, but I've heard stories of people who actually deal with narcissistic personality types, right? And I've dealt with a few of them in my time, and I know that they come from a place of deep insecurity, projection, and I don't get into a position where I allow, like I don't absorb that, and I see that as, you know, a projection of their inner world. But obviously, if you're in a workplace environment where they're your leader, and you have to kind of deal with their delusion in a way. And obviously I'm not a psychologist, I'm not going to try and diagnose people, but sometimes you can kind of tell that people are in their own world, they're very disconnected from themselves. How would you deal with that when you know the faux facts that actually are, whether or not they're consciously trying to undermine you or consciously trying to impact you in a negative way? How do you deal with that when it impacts you directly and you don't want to deal with that delusion anymore?
This is me.
Sorry for the tough one.
Okay, so I tell you what I would say is you've only got responsibility for your feelings and needs, and I think going through this process and developing that self-awareness and being trying to understand about how else your needs might be met, because I think that's really big to tackle.
I think also sometimes what I see is people come into this work because they don't like conflict, and what I would encourage them to do is to really start getting comfortable with conflict, and recognising that really what's happening underneath are those precious needs. So this isn't about just shutting up, being nice, being compassionate, just letting it go. It's actually about really developing up really strong boundaries as well. And that's often really important. The other thing I would say is that curiosity is your friend. So the more that you can stay in curiosity, like even asking questions, going like, I'm wondering what outcome you're actually aiming for here. Like stay innocent rather than you're being narcissistic. Again, that's going to have a very different outcome. Is it always going to work? Maybe not, but it certainly will help.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And also, love the presentation and all the insights. Great answer.
Thank you.
And we have somebody in the front.
Thank you. Yeah, love the presentation. So when we were discussing the exercise and our reflection on it, we were just sharing about, okay, what stood out for us. So one thing that I wanted to ask you, like when you were doing the role play and you asked your manager that, hey, can you tell me why we are doing this landing page and why we are adding a CT on the landing page? Do you think the power of context in this situation would help subordinate explain more to the manager so that manager doesn't feel like, oh, another question, oh, don't waste my time? Where do you see the power of context helps here build your case and take it to the next level?
I think that is a fair point, and I also think that a designer's job is to ask why, and maybe you could say because I need to X, Y, and Z, but yeah, I'm always trying to defend myself. But no, you're not wrong.
I think there's another piece though, that sometimes we're kind of caught in that kind of thing, like we were in the role play. And what I used to think, once that happened, there is no coming back. That's what I used to think before I had these skills. And now I know I can take a step back, I can get clear in myself what's actually going on, what's the observation, what matters to me, how am I feeling, what matters to me, and what requests might I have now that we've already had that, like, and then I can come back and I can, again, use this, but from a way more self-aligned place. And so, even if we miss the first round, we can come back.
Thank you. Power of coming back and, of course, not doubting yourself even if you lost your first chance.
Yes, exactly.
Thank
exactly.
You.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. It was very interesting and very novel for us. The scenario we came to was quite similar to yours, based in the workplace. And what we observed was quite often when you're dealing with, say, a manager, there's also a silent third party in the background who's having a massive influence on that conversation and what they can or cannot provide to you. How do you deal with that third party without necessarily being able to discuss the strategy behind it? Quite often the manager has a lot going on in the background that they can't discuss with junior professionals, and that causes a lot of conflict. So
it's like there's hidden agendas,
yes,
is
exactly.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I do think it is worth coming back to what you said earlier to the lady in the corner, which is what can you be aware of for yourself about what you're needing as well. Not sure what else to say.
I mean, I haven't got an answer for that. Other than, again, I would come back to observations as much as I can. So when I'm hearing you say, yeah, we're 100% go for this project, or whatever it is that you heard them say, and then when I hear from Mary that you're looking at another angle, I'm confused. So again, come back to what are the observations, because even in what you just said just now, there's these hidden agendas and there's whatever, but what are the observations? And then I'm on more solid ground.
So it comes back to transparency and patience with the manager.
Obviously, I don't know the full situation, but
Yeah.
I would come back to what's the observation, and then what goes on in me, what matters to me, and then what action can I take that's in that direction.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for those questions. Contextualising it a bit more. Oh, we got one more.
One more. Final two.
Yeah, thanks so much. Such a great presentation. I'm curious about NCVO and how it's used sort of at a societal level. Like you've talked about it, individuals in a business context.
Yeah.
I'm just curious in other contexts how it's used. Thanks.
You're talking about, can you give me an example of what other contexts?
Well, we're dealing with polarisation. We're dealing with so many issues
Okay,
at the moment.
now I understand. Yeah. So firstly, do you want to say, is there something alive for you?
I was going to say we could talk about where it came from originally, which was during the race riots in the US, and it was developed by a psychologist, so it was designed in a time of conflict. How it's being used
So
now,
that's nonviolent communication was designed by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, and he was directly in the race riots at the time. And he saw this, sorry, I love where you've just taken it.
I guess the other thing is, like, right now, I'm not sure, but what I can say is this is where it's come from during that time, but also it's used in global organisations, possibly under the World Health Organization, UNESCO, where different groups of people have to come to agreement where they've got different cultural values, etc. I'm not sure about right now.
I mean, I think one of the really important things, and by the way, at the moment, I just want to disclose that I'm heartbroken at some of what's going on right now. And I haven't done my inner work, I haven't reflected enough on it, and sometimes it feels so overwhelming that I don't know that a bucket of self-connection is going to help. But however, I guess there's a couple of things that I would say, and that is, the first thing I would say is that be the change. Be the change, right? Become aware of the language that we're using that is still divisive. So that's one thing that I would say. And secondly, I would say to do your inner work. I say that around me not doing it at the moment, but do your inner work to meet whatever the grief is, to meet whatever the anger is, to meet whatever the thing is that's going on inside of you around that, because what that does is it frees inner capacity to take action. So that's the second thing. And the third thing I would say is take action in the directions that you feel called to go. Don't try and think the whole thing is yours. Be really clear what you have capacity for, what you have genuine joy and willingness. Joy might be a funny word, but you can feel there's an aliveness in a certain direction. And just be aware of that. What's yours? For me, this is my work. This is my work. Does that mean sometimes there might be other things on the edges around some of what we're talking about? Maybe I need to reflect on that.
Sincere thank you for what you just shared just there. I was not going to ask a question, but I thought I'd just reflect and have utmost gratitude for what you just shared. What I was going to ask, and in the sense of when you do the self-work and you talk about what your needs are, and I think in what I've taken out of today is you're also understanding what the other person's needs might be as well.
Yeah.
And we work in design, we're all about trying to identify needs. So I'm curious how you'd reflect on this in the way you'd apply it to your design practice as well.
Weirdly, I haven't made that connection.
It's been better.
Yeah, it's meta, but when it's not dry February, I'll buy you a drink for that. No, sorry, I haven't connected the two, because it's weird, because it makes complete sense, but it hasn't been put like that to me.
I mean, it's sort of a bit of a bias for me in the sense that when you do the self-work, you understand your own biases, and you take those biases into your research you don't know about. So if you can somehow identify your biases, like your needs, because then you lose that filter and the research becomes way more valuable, in my opinion.
So I could talk to you about empathy practice. I did a 45-minute talk on empathy at design research a few years ago. So
and at SydDT.
And at SydDT. How long ago was that? 100 years ago?
3, 4.
Yeah. So
6.
I think there is.
Pre-COVID, actually.
So empathy is about connecting with what you're feeling. You can't fully be in somebody else's, mind or body or know what they're thinking, but you can. And it is about observing and listening. So there's the connection. Bingo.
Are you revoking the drink now?
Sorry. Oh yeah, no, it's
I'll take the drink.
I do want to just add on that for a moment, and that is that to get together in empathy circles with people, to hear what's on people's hearts, to hear the grief of what people are going through, when I say people, I'm talking about me, I'm talking about you, I'm talking about like what we are going through in response to that. What it does is it also creates inner spaciousness that then I have more clarity and spaciousness to actually take actions. So I see that everything here is interconnected.
There is one final slide before we finish up. And so I will do the talking here since I've got the microphone.
Yes.
Thursday the 12th of March, if you want to get that QR code, is about building positive change in our workplaces and society. It sounds fantastic. And
who are our speakers?
I can't remember.
M. Carter. Yeah, you just.
Okay, so we've got two speakers. So M. Carter, who is a great colleague of Kate here, has written a book about design leadership. So she's going to talk about her experiences in influencing workplaces and organisational change. We've also got Catherine Fitzpatrick, and I urge everybody to have a look at Design to Disrupt. Just do a Google search on that and look at some of the white papers that she's been co-authoring around financial institutions need to change the way to design their products so they're not weaponised in the context of family abuse. So she's had some amazing impact in the industry, as has M in design leadership. We're bringing those two beautiful and thought-provoking leaders together, and they'll be doing their own little mini talks, and we'll have a little panel, and it's going to be an amazing event. So hopefully I'll see a lot of you there. We'll see a lot of you there next month.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. And a huge thanks again to Shari and Stokesy. So much golden there to both reflect on and put in action. And one quick thing I forgot to point out is make sure you check out Liga's sketch note in the corner before you leave. We'll have photos, but check it out in real life. Thanks again for sketch note.